In Morocco, it's not the regulations that bother Tony Fall and Mike Wood, but something quite different.
How much? For this? £3.
Give me the bid now.
What do you want? This one?
You're supposed to buy, the only trouble is you're supposed to buy 6 of them.
This equals 6 dirham each.
6 dirhams each?
Yes.
Can't believe it.
You want the same date? Yeah. Barber.
What on earth can we do with that?
Hey, I made this.
I mean, that swings back, it'll kill it.
No, 1 minute.
How much is this?
This,
How much?
the price 25.
25 dirhams. Far too much.
25, no.
25 shillings.
No, it's 25 dirham. Not
It's 25 shillings in England.
No, 25 dirham.
No. You'll have to come down some more.
No.
You
It's
are?
20. No, not 20, no.
Now what are you going to do with it? Put a candle in there. You can use this on the car. Spare clutch plate.
The next morning at Rabat, life began in earnest on the starting line, with Darniche #1 in an Alpine-Renault. The second car, waved away by Prince Sidi Mohammed, was Aaltonen's Fiat. Hanno Mikkola in one of the 6 Works Peugeot 504s. During the course of the morning, nearly every member of the organising committee took turns to start the cars. Here is Timo Mäkinen in yet another Peugeot. And safari winner Shekhar Mehta in a 240Z Datsun. The 16th Rally of Morocco is now well underway. And the most interesting thing about it is that it gains in importance every year, and one sometimes wonders why. I think the answer's to be found here, and that is that a real rally, if it's to mean anything, has got to be an adventure. If you go back to the beginnings of the Monty, when very rich British competitors with friends in foreign embassies turned out the Serbian cavalry to rescue the Bucharest competitors from a snowdrift, that was an adventure. It wasn't just a competition of A versus B over a special section. That's why the World Cup rally was important, why the London-Sydney was important, and it's why this is gaining in importance. And if you think that's a bit far-fetched, stick around a bit, we'll show you. Quickest on the second stage was Darniche, with an astonishing 80 miles an hour. Closely followed by Aaltonen on the Fiat 124 Spider. Nicolas on another of the Alpines. And Shekhar Mehta soon to have trouble with his throttle cable. These easy roads over the Col de Zagota made many say the rally had not yet begun. But several local men were getting away with unauthorised shortcuts to the fury of their fellow competitors, which gave everyone plenty to talk about during the overnight halt at Fez. If the day had lacked adventure, the evening provided plenty in the sideshows of the marketplace. For one competitor, there had already been adventure enough. Driving with Shekhar Mehta, Jerry Phillips explained what happened.
Well, we broke a throttle cable and we had to run for 200 kilometres operating a throttle with a rubber strap by the left hand of the driver. He got a cold hand, I think.
Whereabouts did this happen?
On the third special stage, which meant that we had to complete the third stage and do the fourth one, operating throttle by hand, and I was changing gear.
Do you think this is going to seriously affect your chances?
Well, we've lost 8 minutes on the road, and that's quite a lot, really. But of course, the rally really doesn't begin until tomorrow.
And tomorrow brought the desert. Rock and sand and the immense heat as the rally moved out into the Sahara forced Darniche to pile on the pressure. He was again fastest on this stage through Missour. Terrier hurried on behind until his front suspension broke, costing him a full 50 minutes in the desert. Shekhar Mehta pressing on past the locals to make up for yesterday's lost time. But on any rally, time is too short for comfort. Pagani in the only K70 Volkswagen waits for his passenger at the start of the stage. Aaltonen in the second Fiat, slower than his teammate, but still going well as the rally moved into the real desert where, as usual, the marshals were having trouble with the spectators. And here, the DS of Bochnicek, not the quickest on this stage, but third overall. Neyret in another DS, second fastest on this stage, and heading south away from the buildings into the emptiness of the Sahara. Lunchtime, Riche, on the second day of the rally. And the adventure isn't only on the special stages, it's hereabouts as well, because you won't find a petrol company laying on something like this at the end of the Epint ranges, or even on top of the Turini. It's something of a gastronomic adventure as well, because not only is there couscous, which is rather dry chicken, with some sort of maize stuff underneath, which is fairly palatable, but there are these whole roast sheep, which are excessively greasy and peculiar, and you tear them to pieces if you really want to eat anything, which I don't particularly. The great thing is when the chap brings it in, he stands it up like this to make it look as lifelike as possible. And for myself, I think I can go further than say that it is an acquired taste. And personally, I thank God I'm not Lawrence of Arabia or somebody important, because I might have been offered one of the small special spherical bits, which I could well do without. But still, I think we'd better get back to the rally, because from the news that's filtering in here, most of the competitors are having even more trouble with their front suspension than the band is. Cold water heralded the start of the next stage, 205 kilometers on the way to Marrakesh. The Citroëns put their suspension up to its full height, but even this didn't stop Bochnicek getting water in the works. After a quiet night in Fez, which is the cultural capital of Morocco, the rally moves on here to Marrakesh. And if anybody was in any doubt about the fact that they were in a different country, it ought to be dispelled by now. Because this is the market of the world. This is one of the hubs of the Arab life. This is marketing which no Western market manager ever dreamt about. Everybody is meat to be sold something. Wherever you stop, wherever you go, somebody will be beside you asking you to buy this in every language under the sun. Even when you're out in the desert and you think you haven't seen anybody for 2 or 3 hours, if you're fool enough to stop the car, there's no doubt whatever that out of the ground, as it were, will come a little boy carrying a lizard he's just caught under a stone and try and sell it to you. And if you say you don't want it, he'll tell you the Germans think of it as a great delicacy. So you're meat for everything. But you want to watch what you're doing, because nothing is particularly sacred. I've got my hands in my pockets because in one of them is my wallet and the other's my cigars, and I shall need them when this is over. But all the same, the rally wasn't over, and soon after 5 the next morning, the rising sun heralded the toughest day yet. First away again, Darniche still leading the rally. A quick time check by Bjorn Valdegaard himself, who, careful as ever, drives off into the morning sun, lying a comfortable 5th. But how comfortable was the rally? How does it compare with the safari? Shekhar Mehta.
Very, very different. Much rougher here. But I think, on the whole, this may be less punishing.
Less punishing only if you don't roll it, which he did within hours, though neither he nor Phillips were hurt. Now the rally climbed over the high Atlas and back to the desert, where the oppressive heat and terrible surfaces were to reduce the field to a couple of dozen cars, fighting on, alone and apart. You don't see anybody. We haven't seen anybody for about a couple of hours. The dust is appalling. The inside of the car gets red hot. And all right, there's nearly a gale blowing, which is making the dust pretty frightful one way and another. But that comes out of these vents like sort of hot air out of an oven. And after about 2 hours of it, it gets really rather unpleasant, and you plough on, and the stages aren't short. This one we're on at the moment, mercifully just ahead of the rally, is something like 90 kilometres long, and that's a long way to go ploughing through this stuff. It changes too. This one is very much all the same, but one of the most remarkable things about the country is that 1 minute you expect the signpost, if there was one, to say Sidi Birani, and the next minute it looks as though it ought to say Budlis Aaltonen. And this really sort of throws you, because you're on a tarmac road and then bang, you're not. You're on nothing at all, going downhill as I am at the minute into the bed of a river with a little pile of stones, and bang, bang, here we go again. And up the other side, you can't see anything. It's worse than a humpback bridge, and you have no idea what's the other side. I don't care how good your pace notes are. You can do pace notes for corners, but for where the lump in the road is, God only knows. Not only lumps, but lizards. Even so, spectators were few and far between, and the only sign of a rally in these parts is a cloud of dust. As night fell, they still had 4 hours of mountain and busy main road before they saw the lights of Casablanca. The rally ended at midnight in the main square, and predictably, since he'd led the rally from the start, Bernard Darniche was the first arrival. A French rally veteran noted for both good humour and determination, his was a popular win in circumstances which had seemed much against the odds. Well, that's the 16th Rally of Morocco, an astonishing success for the French in a very French-orientated event, the Citroëns and particularly the Renault Alpines, who redeemed their last year's failure. It's also a very well-organised rally, astonishingly so, and one which apparently the officials and the competitors seem to get on together, which is more than you can say from some of the rallies we've seen, which is perhaps why its star is very much in the ascendant at a time when the East African safari is losing some of its glamour. And also a reason, I think, why, if pleasant plans come to fruition and there is going to be a World Cup rally next year, it's going to come down through Portugal onto these stages in Morocco before it goes on into Africa and Ethiopia and back up the other side of the Mediterranean to Munich. So it's quite an event, and what is it? What is it? I keep asking myself, what is it that makes this work? And I think it's the adventure thing. I think we've reached a stage when we want a rally to be something other than a few chaps competing against each other for a split second or two over a special stage. It wants to be an event against the elements. This is it. And if it is, it's a good sign, because I think it's something which is going to put some spirit back into the somewhat jaded scene of international rallying. Good night.